let's go out to L.A. and bring in Brad Turner. There is plenty of shock in L.A. about Paul George going to OKC, but we're going to hit the Clipper angle here with Brad, who's been a longtime beat writer for the team. After this roller coaster of a week, is this what you expected? And are we seeing the full impact here now with Jerry West, Chris Paul out, Blake Griffin getting 175?
You know what? I think so, but let's give Steve Ballmer credit. Let's give Doc Rivers some credit and Lawrence Frank. I mean, I think that group is what eventually led Blake Griffin to saying, I want to remain with the Clippers. And Blake also has 2 kids here in L.A. He has a family here. That's part of it. And maybe the major thing was, besides the money, let's not forget that, the money was a big key in this. I think he wants this to be his team now. It's no longer, is it Blake's team? Is it Chris's team? Is it someone else's team? This is Blake Griffin's team now, and he runs the show.
All right, so what does that mean now for moving forward for a team that consistently wins 50 games and gets to the second round, but not any further, with very little flexibility? Can they actually build around BG?
Well, I'm sure they hope they can, and they do have 2 first-round draft picks for next year in 2018. That will help going forward. I was told that the guys they got in the trade, especially Patrick Beverley, the Clippers are very happy about that. They like Sam Decker. They like Montrezl Harrell. Losing Chris Paul is a big, big loss for them. You can't make up for that. But you didn't lose your second-best player in Blake. You haven't lost DeAndre Jordan. So you still have those 2 pillars to the team, and you have a wise, sage executive in Jerry West who is known to help teams pull off incredible deals. So they're not done yet. I think they're going to try and use some of the money they have left to get a player, but they can also trade for a player. I mean, look at what happened with Paul George. I mean, did we ever think they would give up those 2 players just to get Paul George? Well, it happened.
Well,
so the Clippers will be in the market looking for players.
Yeah, Brad, David Aldridge had the report the other day that maybe part of the reason which led Chris Paul to Houston was that the Clippers were not willing to commit the full max, which would have resulted in $45 million going to Chris in the last year of his deal when he was 37 years old. Now, Blake Griffin, obviously much younger. We're talking about a guy that's missed 83 games over the last few years. He hasn't finished the last 2 playoff runs due to injuries. What's the confidence level that he can be available and durable enough to finish out this 5-year deal and help this team get over the hump?
It had to be confidence if they gave him 5 years at 175. If you don't believe that he can rehab his toe injury, if they didn't believe that he'll be healthy when the season gets to the bulk of it sometime around November, maybe December, if the Clippers didn't believe that, then they made a grave mistake. Obviously, they believe in their doctors, their training staff, and Blake's ability to rehab hard, which he's done in the past for him, and that's unfortunate, but he's been known to attack that very hard. So they believe in him. He believes in them. I don't think the Clippers had a choice. Either they paid him the full 175 or he left and he would go somewhere else.
And you mentioned Steve Ballmer. I mean, how much of it was a concern that a guy that's trying to get a new arena, get a whole new branding campaign, he's trying to attract new fans, if they lost Paul and Blake Griffin, what would that have done to the identity of the Clippers in Southern California?
Well, if you lived in L.A., and you recall the Clippers of the 80s and the 90s, well, no one wanted to go to the games, and the games were at the sports arena downtown L.A., right. But it was a ghost town there, basically. You went to see the opposing teams. They had a few good teams, but not very many. This team, this Clipper group, has been to the playoffs 6 straight years. Now, they don't have Chris Paul, granted, but you become just another bad, horrible Clipper team if Blake Griffin is not there.
As we bring back in Billy King, and Dennis Scott is going to stay with the Clippers. He was scheduled to meet with the Suns and with the Denver Nuggets. So Chris Paul's out. Is Blake Griffin now a capable #1 superstar that can lead a team beyond where this squad has been?
Key word, Jared, is lead. We know he's a perfect talent. We know he's been through the injuries. Brad hit around the head. He's worked his way back from every injury and actually gotten better and improved his game. We nitpicked early on that he didn't get to the free throw line enough. His mid-range jump shot wasn't that good. He improved in all that. But now for me, Billy, the question is, in that fourth quarter, are you going to be a better leader? Are you going to get to the free throw line? Are you going to get a good shot? And now, can you be that guy that says, you know what, guys? LA is still a great place to be. Yes, Chris Paul left. I'm ready to take that next step and being one of those guys where I can say, I'm the face of this franchise. I want guys to come in and help me win and go deeper into the playoffs. That's my question. Is Blake ready to be that guy?
Well, we're going to find out. But I think what they did, the one thing the Clippers had, they didn't have depth.
Right.
By trading Chris Paul, they got a lot of players, and they got depth. Now they can create a new identity. You've got DeAndre Jordan going to block shots. So now with Patrick Beverly running the point, better defender than Chris.
Right.
And Chris, even though Chris is a very good defender, but Patrick's younger. Right. You have Sam Decker. So they got some young pieces. And now by re-signing Blake Griffin, if you lose Blake Griffin, you lose him for nothing.
Right.
Now you sign him, you've got the ability to trade him. It's just like when Sam out in Oklahoma City, traded for Oladipo, gave him the extension, which allowed him to put him in this trade.
Right.
So by signing Blake Griffin, now you don't lose an asset for nothing. So now they got him on the contract. If it's 1 year, 2 year, and things don't go well, they can look to move him along. But now they have him on the contract, and they got other pieces. So now they got depth to build that team with.
How much of these two significant moves, Chris Paul to Houston, obviously his decision, but Jerry West clearly had something to do with it.
Oof.
Jerry West there and Jerry West here with Blake Griffin.
Well, I think Jerry's person, you're going to commit to this long term. The guy's getting older. He's been injured. And at 37, you're going to pay him that amount of money. You got a young Blake Griffin. You got a young DeAndre Jordan. Let's sort of start over, but you still
So you like those two together? DeAndre and Blake?
Well, I like the fact DeAndre is a great rebounder and a shot blocker. And so your defense is already better when you have that guy. And you got guys now you can throw the lobs to. They're going to score off that way. And now allows Doc, now they can create their offense and do things a little different. The one thing with Chris Paul, Chris dominated the basketball. Now maybe they change their offense a little bit.
But that goes against everything we were just saying in the last segment about what Oklahoma City was doing by adding talent to try and keep up with Houston, who's trying to keep up with Golden State.
Well, but they added talent. They needed that piece because it was just Russell. They didn't have any other offensive weapons, so they needed that piece. You look at the Clippers; they've tried and they tried and they haven't been able to go and win with that way. So you got to change. Who are you going to get rid of? You get rid of the older player because he's going to fade out a lot sooner than the other ones. That's why I think they made the move. If you're trying to decide Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, you go with the youth.
6 free agents for the Clippers this offseason. They've gotten rid of one. They have re-signed another, but still a lot of decisions to go. And explain how there's not a lot of flexibility in what they can do.
Well, they have some flexibility. They have more flexibility in a way because they are no longer totally invested, right? They're not under the cap. They're over the cap. Now, the question is how do you add to this? Can you offer, say, Andre Iguodala, the mid-level exception, $8 million, $9 million a year for 4 years, $36 million? Does that entice him to get up and leave? That, I don't know, maybe, what is Golden State offering? It becomes a question of who can they get. Now, the Clippers have to be mindful of the luxury tax. And they're not, they were in a hard cap situation. They were limited. They wanted to trade for Carmelo Anthony, couldn't do it. It was too complicated. Here, they're not in that kind of danger. So maybe they can get a hard cap, but it won't be a problem. They're not so overloaded. They were paying Chris Paul so much. They were paying DeAndre so much. They were paying Blake Griffin so much. Now it's a little bit more evenly out. So you need to trade somebody. You can trade, they're in smaller pieces. You can trade a Lou Williams if you have to, or you could trade a Patrick Beverly or Jamal Crawford. One of these guys that I think maybe they have a little bit too many guards. I don't think they're going to trade Austin Rivers, but get rid of one of the guards and then open up a little bit more flexibility. So there is a little bit more. I mean, they can't go out and just go spend on whoever they want.
So again, even if J.J. Redick, as we most believe, will sign elsewhere, they still don't have extra room above and beyond $8.5 million.
Right, that's it. They don't have their biannual exception. There are basically two tools. One's about $8 million, one's about $4 million. They used it last year. It's biannual. You use it every other year. So they have $8 million. That's about it. That's not a bad thing. And they do have ability to make trades. So you can't just think in one move. What are the other moves that they can do? And they have some kids now. They've got all these guys from the Rockets, Harrell and Wiltshire, and they have their own guys, Diamond Stone and Bryce Johnson. They have pieces to either develop or maybe package out and trade.